The Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast is back for another episode. Join Marc S. Ryan, a veteran health plan and health technology executive, as he explores the world of healthcare.
Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast. My name is Marc Ryan, and thanks to everyone for listening in. On October 17th, I had a podcast on a number of drug price concession announcements. I felt that brand drug makers could be hoodwinking the Trump administration, and I urged the president to proceed with caution and stick to his guns on real drug price reform. Well, in just over a month, we have had two other big drug price announcements that I thought merited our return to the topic this week. They are PBM Express Scripts' announcement that it will begin, in some cases, eliminating rebates and migrate to net pricing, as well as the president also announced GLP-1 weight loss drug price deals and may be expanding access to these weight loss drugs in Medicare. We will take our regular 3 breaks today and cover the Express Scripts rebate in the first half and then go to the GLP-1 drug price deals. So let's get to the Express Scripts announcement about drug rebates first. It is a step forward, but not an earth-shattering change by any means. In an October 9th, 2025 blog, I applauded President Donald Trump's efforts to redefine drug price in America. At the same time, I questioned whether some of the deals he has announced with brand drug makers, aka Big Pharma, were truly game changers for drug price in America. I urged the president not to settle for these deals, but to continue to push forward on true price reform. Along comes Cigna's Express Scripts announcement that it would begin the process of migrating, in part, from the current gross price and rebate model to net drug pricing. This upends both its brand drug contracts with drug makers, but also with insurers and employer groups. In part, the announcement was precipitated by the Trump administration's own demands that pharmacy benefits managers like Express Scripts abandon the rebate structure in America, or it would take action to end them. So I applaud the president again for the progress made. At least part of the move by a big PBM to transition also has been brought about by the rise of so-called transparent PBMs, which have gained market share from the big 3 behemoths, CVS Caremark, Express Scripts, and United's Optum Rx. But as I said with the big pharma price concessions, I am dubious about this leading to true reform. If I am skeptical of big pharma coming with its pockets open and bandying about concessions, the same holds true for PBMs. On one hand, the Express Scripts changes seem very clearly rooted in a fundamental shift in the market. I can't say that about the big pharma proposals. At the same time, the details of the proposal do not appear to be the fundamental change Trump is looking for rebates. It does not call for the absolute elimination of rebates, and therein lies my skepticism. Let's deep dive into the issue. So what are drug rebates anyway? As opposed to a true net price being set, as we have with generics, well, sort of. Brand drugs have list prices and then a rebate that is granted to PBMs by brand drug makers. Those rebates are meant to do 2 things. 1, ensure the best formulary placement on a PBM's drug list for the brand drug maker. And 2, discriminate against other drugs in the same or similar classes, effectively increasing their prices. Some insurers and PBMs argue they factor these retrospective rebates into cost sharing for consumers. But the problem with rebates is that only in a low percentage of drug transactions is the net price, the gross price minus rebate, truly passed on to the consumers at the drug counter. That means that most consumers are paying based on the gross price. Given the high price of brand drugs, consumers then tend to pay either much higher fixed copays or percentage cost sharing because of the rebate structure. This makes such drugs unaffordable even for insured Americans. While PBMs say they retain just a small fraction of rebates, some parts of the rebates are retained by the PBMs and, more importantly, by health plans and employer groups. A case can be made that the rebates help fund other aspects of health plan benefits, and their elimination would certainly cause complications elsewhere. It is also true that they offset health plan and employer costs. That is not a bad thing in and of itself. But if drugs are unreasonably inflationary, a topic for another day, rebates tend to make them even more so. Brand drug makers constantly inflate price to offer greater and greater rebates to preserve their deals with PBMs and the best placement on drug lists. With that explanation, we will take our first break, and when we come back, we will get into the details of the Express Scripts announcement. Be right back.
Health plans and insurance are confusing. Our healthcare system is in dire need of reform. Health policy expert Marc Ryan tackles both issues in his book, The Healthcare Labyrinth. It is both a guide to navigating health plans and fixing American health insurance. Marc dives deep into how health plans and the American health insurance system operate. He then outlines a comprehensive reform agenda for the system as a whole, including pricing, emphasizing health and care management, and ensuring affordable access to health coverage in a private delivery model. Marc is a bit of an unconventional Republican in that he believes affordable access is the morally right thing to do, and that it is also fiscally prudent for our nation. Learn more about Marc's book, The Healthcare Labyrinth, at healthcarelabyrinth.com or search at leading bookseller websites. Available in print, ebook, and audiobook forms.
Welcome back, and we are talking about some new drug price news since our last podcast on the issue just over a month ago. We're talking about Express Scripts migrating from rebates and President Trump's announcement on GLP-1 weight loss drug price reductions. We are on the issue of the rebates first. We just discussed what rebates are and how they operate in the system, so let's go further into the details. Some would ask if getting rid of rebates actually makes sense. Overall, getting rid of rebates and gross pricing does make sense to me. It is consumer friendly if we eliminate the rebates. It would lower costs at the drug counter for millions, especially those with chronic conditions struggling to afford their medications. This will promote medication adherence and save dollars elsewhere in the healthcare system by keeping conditions in check. And Express Scripts' lowest price approach to payment of pharmacies also is an important reform that saves consumers. But remember that these are just one step in drug price reform. Even if American consumers were paying net prices for drugs, they would still pay manyfold more than in other developed countries. So let's get into the details on the Express Scripts announcement. Express Scripts will phase out prescription drug rebates for brand drugs over time. Cigna will eliminate rebates in many of its commercial health plans in 2027. The phase-out will expand to Express Scripts clients starting in 2028 as the default option. The goal is to get half of employer and health plan clients to adopt the model within 3 years. The new model will save members an average of 30% each month on brand drugs. Patients will pay the lowest available cost, whether the PBM's negotiated rate, the consumer's benefit copay, the cash price, or a direct-to-consumer price. It will lean on technology to compare pricing options for patients and ensure they see the lowest cost when they pick up a prescription at the pharmacy. In addition, Express Scripts will adopt a cost-plus reimbursement model for pharmacies, paying them based on their cost for medications with a dispensing fee added in. Is this real reform? The PBM's phase-out program could mean a major transformation of the PBM industry, moving billions of dollars to offset consumer costs at the expense of rebates to insurers and employers, as well as some amounts retained by PBMs. But while it appears to be a sea change, it may not be all that the hype says it is. First, It does not eliminate rebates, which in my mind is fundamental to drug price reform. Second, it is at best a hybrid approach where rebates and net pricing will stand side by side in product offerings. That hybrid approach will continue to mean all the negatives of rebates continue to impact and drain the system. Third, employers likely will continue to be enticed to stay with the rebates as opposed to migrate to net pricing when these are set up side by side by PBMs. I noted above that some rebates are passed on at the drug counter through what are known as point-of-sale rebate programs. Indeed, some states mandate this in at-risk insurance regulated by the state. The literature seems to indicate, though, that less than 15% of all employers share some or all of the rebates at the point of sale with consumers. So the point of sale rebates are not well adopted, and how meaningfully different will the new net price program really be? That a hybrid system will continue could very well mean employer groups and health plans stay with the rebate model. Indeed, Express Scripts calls the conversion voluntary and not mandatory for employer groups, although Cigna's commercial risk business will totally make the leap to net price. Breaking the juggernaut that is rebates is tough. As noted above, employer groups use the rebates in many different ways when they arrive retrospectively. They credit the rebates to other areas of the benefit design. They buy down their overall costs of healthcare and even reduce employee premiums. While not all rebates are truly passed through by the PBMs, the parts that are look attractive as quote-unquote savings to employers and health plans. Therefore, employers and health plans are enticed by rebates and they want to keep them in place. And PBMs continue to like them too and have every reason to not phase them out entirely. Would there be fallout if rebates went away? For sure, some. Other benefits could erode, premiums could increase, there will be winners and losers. But it should not increase the overall cost of healthcare as a whole. It may be more about adaptation, and there could be very real benefits of rationalizing drug price in America. It increases overall transparency in at least part of the drug channel. It gives consumers some relief at the drug counter, thereby improving adherence and affordability to some degree. It takes some inflation generated by the rebates themselves out of the system. It promotes accountability. PBMs cannot write the reform script, in my view. Allowing this just makes no sense. Allowing parts of the self-interested drug industry in this case to engineer reform on a piecemeal basis is not in America's best interest. Indeed, we have seen the three big PBMs, which control 70 to 80% of the market, announce with fanfare reforms in the past. Sadly, the complaints continued. More radical change is needed lest the PBMs and Big Pharma allow the injurious rebate system to continue on distorting the market and drive price in America. Whatever the impact to some degree in other areas of healthcare, a hybrid rebate system does not promote true drug price reform, which has to be the goal here. In fact, it continues much of the opaqueness that plagues drugs in America. As with the drug price concessions from Big Pharma, Trump should not back away from rebate reform because of PBM hybrid concessions. It delays a radical reform that is needed. This includes lowering drug price overall, eliminating rebates entirely, and bringing unprecedented transparency, disclosure, and reporting throughout the drug channel. All financial transactions should be disclosed and scrutinized. The truth is there is so much we don't know. That is the point to Express Scripts' hybrid model. They don't want us to know all the dirty little secrets. With that, we will take our second break, and when we get back, we will dive into the GLP-1 weight loss drug announcement by the president. Be right back.
Lilac Software is proud to work with the Healthcare Labyrinth website to educate people on the healthcare system. At Lilac, we believe transparency is so important in healthcare. The healthcare system is opaque, and Lilac is trying to bring clarity to data and unleash the best member care, reduce costs, and improve outcomes. Our cloud-native payer platform revolutionizes data insights and analytics. Plans have all the data they need, but in silos locked away in point solutions. At Lilac, we solve the data fragmentation problem and help plans turn complex data into actionable insights, leading to greater operating leverage, tight cost controls, and healthier members. Health plans can improve STAR scores, reduce medical expense, drive revenue, and more. Quite simply, with Lilac, you can drive better business and health outcomes. Learn more at lilacsoftware.com.
Welcome back. We are talking about some new drug price news since our last podcast on the issue just over a month ago. Express Scripts migrating from rebates and President Trump's announcement of GLP-1 weight loss drug price reductions. We tackled rebates, and now we'll move on to the GLP-1 announcement. The Trump administration actually announced another major development when announcing the GLP-1 deals, so let's cover it really quickly. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services announced a new model that aims to bring most favored nation pricing to the Medicaid space. CMS says it will launch the Generating Cost Reductions for U.S. Medicaid (GENERIS) model. State Medicaid programs will be able to purchase certain drugs at prices that align with what is paid in other countries beginning in 2026. Through the model, CMS will negotiate with participating pharmaceutical companies to bring down prices. But back to GLP-1s here. President Trump personally announced lower prices for self-pay customers for GLP-1s and some other drugs. In addition, Medicare will cover GLP-1, semaglutide, and tirzepatide at much lower prices, and this appears true for chronic conditions, these conditions with underlying obesity, and apparently obesity alone. Quote, until now, neither of these two popular drugs have been covered by Medicare for weight loss, and only rarely by Medicaid, end quote, Trump said during a press conference in the Oval Office. Quote, that ends today. This will improve the health of millions and millions of Americans, end quote. Medicare will pay $245 for semaglutide and tirzepatide, with $50 copays for the GLP-1 medicine for enrollees. As well, in 2026, doses of Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly's blockbuster drugs for patients without insurance will be priced at $350 through Trump RX for a monthly supply of the GLP-1s. Starter doses will be as low as $149 per month. They are currently well over $1,000 per month on a list basis. Starting doses of new pill versions of the treatments that are expected to be approved and come out will cost $149 a month. Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk also agreed to discount other medicines. Eli Lilly will provide Emgality at $299 per pen and Trulicity at $389 per month. Novo Nordisk will offer insulin products including Novolog and Tresiba at $35 per month. Both companies also committed to repatriating foreign revenue, applying most favored nation pricing to future drugs, and extending pricing to all state Medicaid programs. Novo Nordisk will invest an additional $10 billion in U.S. manufacturing, and Eli Lilly pledged at least $27 billion. These agreements are separate from ongoing Medicare drug price negotiations. With that, we will take our last break, and when we get back, we will dive deep into some of the questions and complications that result from this announcement. Be right back.
The Healthcare Labyrinth is no ordinary website. It features news and commentary from one of the nation's leading healthcare policy and technology experts. Marc Ryan combs the internet for the latest healthcare news and publishes a news feed each weekday with summations and Marc's insights. Twice a week, Marc publishes a blog to go deep into a current issue. And of course, Marc hosts a podcast each week to delve even further. All of this is available at healthcarelabyrinth.com. Visit each day for the latest happenings in healthcare. As well, learn more about Marc's book, The Healthcare Labyrinth, at the website. That's healthcarelabyrinth.com, your go-to source for healthcare news.
Welcome back, and we are talking about some new drug price news since our last podcast on the issue just over a month ago. Express Scripts migrating from rebates and President Trump's announcement of GLP-1 weight loss drug price concessions. We are in the middle of discussing the GLP-1 deals now, and we'll discuss some of the confusion and complications resulting. There is confusion about whether GLP-1s indeed will be covered in Medicare for obesity alone, and whether aspects of the announcement are mandatory or voluntary. In November 2024, the Biden administration proposed Medicare and Medicaid coverage of GLP-1s for obesity alone. The Trump administration did not finalize the rule, which reinterpreted obesity as a qualifying disease state alone in Medicare. The Trump administration argued at the time it would lead to huge cost increases at current prices. But that may have changed with the new prices. Trump's remarks and other officials seem to say that Medicare will be opened up to GLP-1 coverage for those in Medicare with obesity alone and not other underlying disease states. The government provided few details, however. Reports suggest that savings generated for existing prescriptions will be used to provide new coverage for GLP-1s to patients with obesity. A big question is, how will all this be implemented, and does Trump have the legal authority to do so, and how? A Novo Nordisk press release says that Part D coverage for anti-obesity medicines will be enabled through a pilot program designed to cover a majority of Part D beneficiaries. CMS does have wide experimental authority, but does that voluntary program cover both extending the coverage to those with obesity alone, as well as capping cost sharing at $50 for everyone on the drug for any disease state? The latter copay issue would be similar to what Trump did in Trump 45 for insulin prices. And could a pilot program actually extend covered benefits to obesity alone for these weight loss drugs? If so, could plans electing to participate in the pilot see major adverse selection in costs because people with obesity alone will come into their plan to obtain the GLP weight loss drugs that may not be available in other plans? To address this issue of adverse selection and coverage of GLP-1s for obesity alone, might the Trump administration have to do all this via rule, effectively backtracking on striking down what Biden had proposed? And would that reinterpretation now by Trump on obesity as a covered condition in Medicare stand up in court as allowable via a rule? If not, broader reforms might well need an act of Congress, and would Congress support such an expansion? When will all this begin for Medicare? Well, that's a big question too. An Eli Lilly press release suggests the $50 cap in cost for enrollees for GLP-1s begins as early as 2026, but benefit designs and bids have long been put to bed. Will rebates for such drugs go away? The rebates today on weight loss drugs are very significant. The drug price negotiations will take these out for sure, and this announcement likely furthers that. So, the true net reductions in overall costs likely will be much less than the gross one, but consumers will see bigger savings at the drug counter. What about costs to Medicare? Medicare was already expanding GLP-1 coverage for diabetes and heart disease to other disease states, such as pre-diabetes with obesity. We were seeing costs of GLP-1s increase dramatically in Medicare Part D. Even with the discounts, liberal expansion of GLP-1 coverage could mean a huge surge in Medicare drug Part D costs well into the future. As well, note that the price is not nearly as low as other developed nations, which have prices below $200 and sometimes closer to 100 for a monthly supply. A study by Epic Research did find that 56% of semaglutide, 52% of liraglutide, and 55% of tirzepatide patients kept the weight off or lost additional weight after stopping GLP-1 use. The study tracked 188,722 patients who stopped taking the drugs after at least 90 days of use for treatment of obesity and had an initial weight loss of 5+ pounds. Complete weight regain occurred in 23% of semaglutide, 21% of tirzepatide, and 27% of liraglutide users at 24 months. Admittedly, this could lead to greater acceptance of expansion of weight loss drugs in government programs. But the truth is, no studies are showing immediate or short-term reductions in overall healthcare costs, at least in year one. Some studies speculate that longer-term savings will be seen. Studies also show populations that are quickly stopping usage or stopping and starting. Admittedly, some of that could be related to current high prices. The impacts on plans, though, could be major if GLP-1 coverage is expanded. The standalone Part D plans, or PDPs, are already financially precarious. Greater costs of weight loss drugs, even with price reductions, could further complicate PDP solvency. It could lead to cutbacks in other areas or increased premiums or deductibles. Similar things could happen in Medicare Advantage as well. In the end, the price concessions on GLP-1 weight loss drugs are a step in the right direction. The president should be congratulated for moving usually intractable big pharma. But a great deal is unclear. Are prices low enough to truly pay for expansion to obesity? Will Trump settle for the deals or push forward, as I have encouraged, for a true remake of price in law across all lines of business? These GLP-1 deals do not do anything for employer and commercial coverage. With that, we will conclude this edition of the Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Thanks for joining Mark and the Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast. Go to healthcarelabyrinth.com each day for the latest healthcare news. See you next week on the next Healthcare Labyrinth Podcast.